terrible idea. So our foreign partners are telling us this will cause violence and deaths. Our foreign leaders have approached the government and said, you do this, this will cause violence and deaths. Our own intelligence community has assessed that this will cause violence and deaths. That tells you something. This is more than just differences on what happened. This is, and then you have to ask this, Candy, what good will come of this report?
Releasing the Senate's so-called torture report could potentially spark controversy overseas. Of course, that's what you've just heard from the Republican representative there. This report is supposed to be issued earlier today. Thus far has not been issued publicly. Let's bring in our friend and Republican commentator and strategist, Lenny McAllister, on this. Lenny, great to see you. I think that there's a lot of conventional wisdom would be that this type of report comes from the CIA. It's given to the Senate. It's supposed to be kept, top secret, confidential, classified document. But the way things leak and get out so quickly, I'm not sure if they thought that getting out ahead of it was the right thing to do. But it would appear to me there might be some second thought on whether or not to release it at all. I want to get your take on this.
There definitely should be some second thoughts in regards to releasing this at all. Listen, I think that this is the Obama administration once again trying to play nice with the rest of the world. There are just some people in the world that you cannot play nice with. They are your enemy, and there's only one way to beat them, and that's to defeat them, to annihilate them, and get them to a point of submission to the point where they're not a threat to you or your allies ever again. And I think that if you go back to the earliest days of the Obama administration, when we were trying to play nice with Ahmadinejad back when he was reelected back in 2009, you see this tone where President Obama thinks he can schmooze everybody into a sense of cooperation. That's not the case with every single entity out there in the world, whether it's a foreign nation or an entity such as ISIS. And I think by releasing this report, all it does is embolden them. I think that it would basically make them more emboldened to kidnap overseas and more emboldened to try to recruit Westerners to come back and do something on the homeland. This is a very horrible thing to have happen. And I think they were trying to, in many regards, try to news dump it, try to put it out there, show disclosure, but get it out there as quickly as possible and show goodwill. And it's just something that just did not need to be done.
Well, when I hear about things like this, like we just put up the State Department's statement to all of their posts overseas, Lenny, ostensibly to review their security postures and things like that, and be on high alert, ostensibly. I just finished talking about the Canadian embassy in Cairo being shut down, as was the British embassy. I'm not sure if there's any correlation between the two, with our Five Eyes partnerships, as the U.S. embassy in Cairo remains open. But that all said, this is an interesting situation, obviously, because you don't want to see a repeat of Benghazi. You don't want to have any other foreign diplomat, U.S. diplomats or anybody killed based on what may or may not be in this report. So let's go on that level. What is expected? I mean, there's been a lot of leaks already, but from your gleaning of this, what is this report saying? I mean, this is all about torture post 9/11. So is this just another Blaine Bush type of situation, or what is actually in this report?
This is probably a report to try to do two things. Number one, say where we were and how the Obama administration has cleaned things up, but it's going to also say that we have a ways to go. There are some troubling things apparently in this report, including some sexual humiliation that came during an investigation, during interrogations that will come to light in this report. And all it's going to do is embolden particularly people that are religious extremists. All it's going to do is embolden them to be further against the United States. And I don't think that we're really looking at the situation of another Benghazi. I think the vulnerabilities will be American and Western journalists, photojournalists, civilians, people that are tourists, people that are teaching, people that are contractors. Those are the individuals that are going to end up, unfortunately, on some more of these videos when this type of report comes out and they have a reason to go against the West with another level of energy and vigor.
So at this point, what we know, Lenny, is that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has called the Intelligence Committee Chair Dianne Feinstein. He has asked her to, or suggested, not asked, he suggested that they delay releasing the report. But you and I both know how these things work. You delay it, eventually some aspects of it's going to trickle out. So big picture this for me. Let's say this does get out and it's out there for the world to see. What will the domestic reaction be?
I think the domestic reaction is going to be that look at the type of things that the United States of America, under the premise of our Constitution and national sovereignty, still get involved with. There's going to be a lot of reaction to why are we involved in conflict overseas, particularly in the Middle East in the first place. Because let's be honest, the vast majority of all these activities center around activities from 9/11 moving forward against Al-Qaeda and groups such as ISIS. So people are going to ask once again, why are we in Syria? Why are we in Iraq? Why are we involved in the Middle East when all it's doing is damaging the American brand throughout the world and having extremists have another reason to come after us? This is not worth it to bring our boys home.
Okay, we're going to have to see what the smart people in Washington decide, whether or not to release this. Lenny, we'll keep our eye on it. Thanks for joining me.